So as I was saying, there's little tricks within each question. I don't think they'll bug you after today, but they may have very well tripped up some people as far as today's lesson goes. So the first one here says to find the sum of -5 and 3. And Chris said right away, uh-oh, what's sum? He forgot from years past. I think some more of you guys forgot also. What does sum mean?
Add.
Add, very good. So what it's really saying is what's -5 plus 3? And what is -5 plus 3? -2. Now, some people got that wrong, and I'm afraid that perhaps they got it wrong because they really didn't know how to add -5 and 3. So just a quick review of how to add -5 and 3. You do it like this. Oh, I have to. -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3. When you're adding, the opposite signs cancel each other out. What's the final answer? -2. Now, the next one is very tricky when you first encounter it, but it's a classic math question. Subtract -3 from 7. Now, before we answer that, the other day, I drove from Patchogue to Montauk. Where did I start? Patchogue, that went first. Patchogue went first. If I drive to Montauk from Patchogue, where do I start? To Montauk from Patchogue, where do I start? Patchogue. If I drive to Patchogue from Montauk, where do I start? Montauk. If I drive to LA from NYC, where do I start? If I drive from Montana to Florida, where do I start? Montana. In other words, the from always goes first. So what's the from here? Is the -3 the from or the 7? Subtract -3 from 7. What goes first? No. Ready? Drive to Patchogue from Montauk. Where do I start?
7.
Montauk, and in this case 7. So it's 7 minus -3. Circle agar, 7 plus 3 is 10. So the tricky part of this question is the word from. From goes what? First. Everybody say it with me. From goes first.
From goes first.
That was almost good. From goes first.
From goes first.
All right. So remember tomorrow when you see the word from. Now, I don't always put the from second. Sometimes I put the from in the front. Sometimes I put the from in here. Whatever it says from, that's the part that goes first. Find the product. What's product mean? Multiply. So this is just 7 times -3. So now, I think everybody in the room knows that 7 times 3 is 21. Question is it positive or negative? I'm multiplying by a negative, there it is, so I have to change the first sign. Not only am I multiplying by 3, I'm also negating. So I change the first sign. Is that 7 positive or negative? So it becomes a -21. Use the order of operations to simplify. What do I do first, the minus or the times? Guys, hey, you, end the game. Minus or times? Times. 4 times 2 is 8. So now I have 5 minus 8. And we said to you guys the other day, when it comes to subtraction, I strongly recommend you never subtract. Now, I know that sounds insane that it says to subtract, but you don't subtract. What I suggest you do is just combine the like numbers, the terms. What kind of 5 is this?
Positive.
Positive. What kind of 8 is this?
Negative.
What's positive 5 and -8? -3. And last but not least, write as a series of factors. Now, these quizzes are so important because they don't only teach you what you're doing wrong, they teach me about, like, if a lot of kids make a particular mistake, then it normally means to me that I didn't explain well enough a particular topic. This is an example of that. First off, the correct answer is this. And more kids have the correct answer than the wrong answer. But some kids wrote this. Now, if they wrote that, what do you know is immediately wrong? You look at it, you instantly know it's wrong, and you should never, ever, ever, ever do that. Gypsy Biker.
Like there shouldn't be the X or U.
Yeah, there should be no X's. There's no X for times anymore. If you put a dot, that would be okay. But never, ever an X for a time no more. That's a big time mistake.
There's too many 4s.
There's too many 4s. This exponent of 5 here only refers to the n. It has nothing to do with the 4. If I wanted to include the 4, I would have to do either this, or I would have to do this. But I didn't do this, and I didn't do this. So there's only 1 4 and then 5 ends. Okay, any question? Boys, what is so interesting on the floor?
I'm trying to look for something.
What's that?
I'm trying to look for my paper clip.
Okay, can we put the paper clip on hold because it's not defining the paper clip as bad, it's not, but it's not gonna get up and move on its own. So it'll still be there in a little while, but in the meanwhile, we're straightening this out so when you take the quiz tomorrow, you do really well, okay? Are there any other questions about your quiz? Now, I said this last week, and this should become standard operating procedure. When you go home and you go to do your homework tonight, you just open up the quiz and you look through the quiz again, and you make sure you remember what you did wrong on any question that you got wrong. If you don't remember, you go to the website, you pop on the video, we just recorded this, you watch this section of the video. You don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't need the whole thing. That reviews the quiz with you, and then at the end of the homework, just look it over for another 45 seconds to a minute to remind yourself of what went wrong. I'm watching these photography videos right now by a guy who's had a big influence on me. His name is Richard Bernardi, or Burnaby, he pronounces it. And he does these videos, and at the end of every video, he takes a minute and he goes, okay, let's recap what we just went over. And he takes just 30 seconds at the end of each video to talk about the main things that he discussed during the video. In your case, what I suggest is that you, at the end of your homework, you just look back over the quiz for a minute or so to recap in your mind what you learned from the quiz. If you do that, your grades will skyrocket on the quiz. It's really easy for me to tell if you did it or not. I don't care if you got a 0 today or a 9 or 80. It makes no difference. I care about tomorrow and the next day. If you got a 0 today and you get a 40 or a 60 tomorrow, and then an 80 or 100 the day after that, that's good. That's really good. That means that you worked at it, you improved, and you got better. If you get a 0 or a 20 today, a 0 or a 20 tomorrow, and a 0 or a 20 the day after, there's no way you did what I just said. There's no way. So go about working on that. All right, so let's get into the do it again and work on this here. Carmen, you with me? All right, what's negative 9 plus 2, everybody? Negative 7. Good. What's, circle. Agar. What's negative 8 plus 4? Negative 4. Sign the bigger number. Right there would be 8 negatives there. And only 4 positives. So these guys will wipe each other out. 4 negatives are left. Okay, what's 4 times negative 4? Let's do the easy part. What's 4 times 4, everybody? 16. Derek, it looks like I'm losing you here, pal. All right, 4 times 4 is 16. But the question is this a positive or negative? It starts out as a positive. I'm multiplying it by a negative. So what do I have to remember to do?
Switch it.
Change the sign. So it becomes negative 16. Okay, 5 squared.
25.
25. Good. Negative 5 squared.
Negative 25.
Negative 25. Remember, we got to square it, then negate it. Negative 5 in parentheses squared.
125.
No.
Oh,
No, it's 25. Look, this means negative 5 times negative 5. Anything squared means times itself. So 5 times 5 is 25. Now, when I take this negative and then I multiply by the other negative, it changes, so it becomes positive. 5 to the third is 125.
I know, I thought that was on the...
Okay, now, if it's a negative, and then another negative, and then another negative, I didn't need the 1 there. This negative times this negative, what's that gonna get me so far? It's gonna get me to positive, right? Because I multiplied by a negative, so I changed to a positive. Then I multiply by a negative again, I gotta change it one more time. Okay, simplify number 2A. We're gonna multiply coefficients. What does the word coefficient mean? Okay, we're gonna swirl this baby. Ready? Everybody say coefficient.
Coefficient.
And I write it like this. That's an E. Coefficient. Turn to the person next to you, tell them coefficient means the number in front.
Coefficient means the number in turn.
You tried to fake me out. Turn to somebody, say coefficient means the number in front.
Coefficient is the number in front.
Okay, now, so we're gonna multiply the coefficients because there's no exponents outside parentheses or anything. What's 5 times negative 3? Come on, 5 times negative 3.
Negative 15.
Negative 15. And now add exponents. X to the second times x to the seventh is x to the what? 9th. Very good.
Yay.
So negative 15 x to the 9th. By show of hands, how many people got that right? All right, we only got about a third of the class to get that right. Listen, the next series of quizzes, not these three, the ones after that, lots of questions like numbers 2, A, B, and C. So we want to make sure we get these down pat before we get into that quiz phase. Next, we're going to divide coefficients, subtract exponents. Everybody say with division, divide coefficients, subtract exponents. Good, Ishmael, head in the game. 24 divided by 3. Come on, 24 divided by 3.
8.
8. X to the 7 over x to the 2 is x to the? Can the whole class please participate? That's a 7, that's a 2. You just said a minute ago, divide coefficients, do what to the exponents?
Subtract.
Subtract them. So what would 7 minus 2 be?
5.
5. Now, this is an interesting case. Y to the third over y to the third. If I subtract them, I get 0.
I knew it.
But what did we learn the other day about anything to the 0 power?
It's one.
It's 1. So I can just get rid of that because 8x to the 5th times 1 is just 8x to the 5th. Now, letter C, we kind of rushed toward the end of class. There's 2 ways to do it. I'm going to show you the more blood and guts approach, but it's, I think, a little easier to understand. This is 2n to the 4th, because it says cubed here, so I have to write 2n to the 4th 3 times. And then we're going to multiply coefficients, add exponents. So what's 2 times 2? 4 times 2? 8. Add exponents. 4 and 4 is 8, and 4 more is 12. So it's 8n to the 12th. And for now, I'm only going to show you that way. If you remember the other way from the other day, that's great, but that's as much as I'm going to show you for now. Okay? Any questions on that? We're good? All right. If you can do the quiz, and you can do these questions, then that means that anything that we've tried to teach you this year, you're good at. If you're getting 80s and above. If you're not, then it's not like, it doesn't mean, kids tend to think, oh my God, I must be stupid. No! Nothing could be further from the truth. It means you need to dedicate a little time and straighten out whatever it is you're not understanding yet. That's what it means. And if you still don't get it, it doesn't mean a lack of intelligence. It means a lack of work ethic. Okay? All right. In the space below, draw a rectangle that has a length of 4 and a width of 7. Do it! Draw a rectangle, length of 4, width of 7. Okay. There's a length of 4 and a width of 7. Agree? You with me on this?
Yeah.
In the game? Okay. Now, what's its area? Back to, like, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade math. Go ahead. Excellent. 28 is correct. How did you get that area? Area is what? You multiply, right? Length times width, which in this case is 4 times 7, which is 28. Perfect. Nicely done. Oh, it says area again? Shouldn't say area. What's the perimeter?
The first one says, how do you find it? And
Oh, the first one says, how do you find it? Okay, length times width, and then that's it. Let's do the perimeter now.
yeah, I thought.
What's the perimeter work out to?
And you wrote it.
What's that?
You didn't even read it and you wrote it.
Look at that. I am the king of the sloppy mistake. The absolute king. Go ahead. No, it's not 20. 22.
Yay.
See, perimeter means add up all the sides. This is 4, this is 7. 7 and 7 is 14. And 4 and 4 is 8. 14 and 8 is 22. Okay. Now, with the idea of area in the back of our mind and remembering that it's length times width, let's try this question. Write an expression for the area of the rectangle below. Go ahead. Write an area, or an expression, I'm sorry. Notice the key words there, expression, not an equation, an expression for the area. Remember, expressions do not have equal signs. Okay, what'd you get there, Mr. Roach? You were holding your hand up and you didn't even do it?
No, because I had to. 27 x to the fifth.
No. And you missed up on something we just talked about a minute ago. X to the fifth is right. Listen to Tom's answer. He
Oh, the
said,
area.
oh, no, he said this. He said 27x to the fifth. Now, did anybody else get a different answer?
6.
Oh, we got 6x to the fifth. Okay, anybody else get a different answer?
Wouldn't it be 1?
9x to the fifth? Just 9.
No, I didn't say anything.
Anybody else get a different answer? Max? 3x to the fifth. All right, well, if I want to find the area, isn't it going to be length times width? Agree? What is the length? 3x to the third. Chris, you with me here, buddy? Chris, end the game. 3x to the third. What is the width?
X to the second.
X to the second. So we want length times width. Length is 3x to the third. Width is x squared. Now, when I multiply this, I multiply coefficients. What's the number in front of the x squared here? 1. So what's 3 times 1? 3 times 1 is 3. And then add exponents. X to the fifth. So 3x to the fifth is correct. Okay? Any questions? Now, let's go to number 3. The shape below is a square. Find the area if the side is 9m. Okay. Area, not perimeter. Area. We said that side was 9m. Spencer, what'd you get? Well, then what are you waiting for? Cold wind blows, north wind blows. Go ahead.
81 meters.
Interesting you would say that. Let's put down what Denise says. She says 81 meters. I'm very happy that you said that. It's wrong, but I'm very happy you said it. Derek.
I got 36.
Oh, you did perimeter. 36 meters. That's perimeter. You're adding up all the sides. Max,
I got 18.
you got 18M.
Hmm.
That's a double careless mistake. Anybody else? Mr. Roach,
What?
you went,
No, I didn't mean like answer the question.
oh, okay. Rach, 9M. Anybody else? Everybody's scared by now.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
Oh,
Listen, how do you find area? What times what?
area.
Length time. I left off the area, but find the area. So it's 9m times 9m. What do I do to the coefficients? Multiply. Not 18. 9 times 9 is what? 81. Now, m times m is what? M squared. Remember, there's really a 1 here and a 1 there. And we add exponents. So
Wait.
it's 81m squared.
I thought that was a unit.
Thank you. That's why I was so happy that you did that. Do you remember when you would do like geometry in 6th and 7th grade and it would be like, oh my God, is it feet cubed? Is it feet squared? Is it feet? What is it? And you would get confused about the units. Do you remember that? Because I'm 52 and I remember that. So you guys, A, having better memories than I do because you're younger than me, and B, being a lot closer in age to 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade, you guys should remember it better than I do. Here's my point. You can treat it the same, whether it's units or whether it's a variable.
So you're
treated it.
saying if I put 8, 1, and 2,
What I'm saying is
Yeah,
this,
right.
let's change the way we look at this. Let's make the m, instead of a variable, let's think of the m as units, like you just said. If that's the case, 9 meters times 9 meters, 9 times 9 still gets us 81. And isn't area always squared? Like, if you go by carpet, right, if you go by carpet, they always spell square yards, okay? If you paint the wall, it's always square feet. If you buy a house, they'll say the house is 2,200 square feet. Area is always squared. The reason it's squared is you treat the units exactly the way you would treat a variable. There's a 1 here, there's a 1 here. Meters to the first times meters to the first is meters squared. Doesn't, now this is where it all makes sense. Doesn't a variable mean anything? Right? Couldn't an anything be a meter? Does that make sense? Couldn't an anything be a meter? So if it stands for anything, if the m happened to stand for a meter, then it would be meter squared. Let's try this a little differently. Let's try it as, instead of 9m, let's try it as 9 feet. Okay? Now, what would 9 times 9 be? 81. And what would feet times feet be? Feet what?
Feet squared.
Squared. So now, we really don't have to try to say, oh my God, is this squared or is this cubed? Is it square or is it cube? I can't remember! You don't have to do that anymore. You just have to apply the laws of exponents. Did I get a red mark here? Whatever you come up with works, whether you want to do units or whether you want to do variables. It is the same thing. Okay, what's the area of a square? What's the area of a square whose side can be represented as 5w to the 7th? 5w to the 7th. What's the area of a square, an expression for the area of a square, whose side can be expressed as 5w to the 7th? What's that going to work out to be? What do you think?
I don't know if I'm right, but 25W14.
That's right, 25w to the 14th. Nicely done. Now, check this out. We're going to bring all of this together. What I love so much about math is there's so much logical consistency. Now, I happen to love history. I like to learn about it. I like to watch it, but history is full of garbage. It really is. Oh, I'll give you a great example. Have you ever heard, I didn't say it's bad, I said it's full of garbage. There's a difference. Now, have you guys ever heard of manifest destiny?
Yes.
What is manifest destiny?
What did that
the
say?
expansion.
Expansion.
That's right. That the Pilgrims, when they landed at Plymouth Rock, manifest means obvious. It was their obvious destiny that all the land till California belonged to them. Now, they wrote the textbooks. So when you learn about manifest destiny, or at least when we did for hundreds of years, it was treated as like a great calling among the people who found North America. Do you think their version of events is exactly the same version of events as those given by the Native American people?
Nope.
No.
Oh, no.
We're like-
Going to be just a little bit different.
A lot of it.
What about Mexico? They used to think California was theirs. Texas was theirs. Remember the Alamo? Instead, we went out there and said, no, I don't think so. Manifest destiny, baby, that's ours. So there were all of these other opinions out there. And in social studies, you can go round and round and round and round, and it's as if opinion matters, and go back and forth. But in math, it doesn't matter how I look at it. Whatever perspective I take, I'm going to arrive at the same answer. For instance, check this out. 5w to the 7th times 5w to the 7th. Now, Tom got it right. Multiply coefficients, add exponents. What's 5 times 5? 25. Add exponents, w to the 7th, w to the 7th, add them up, I get w to the 14th. Now, let's go to, hold on a sec, let's go to this. Let's look at it as, this word squared means an exponent of 2, right? So let's put an exponent of 2 here. Well, didn't we just do one before on the do it, where we said, oh, we could look at 5w to the 7th squared as the 5w to the 7th times itself. Doesn't 7 squared mean 7 times 7? Doesn't 10 squared mean 10 times 10? So wouldn't x squared mean x times x? So 5w to the 7th squared means 5w to the 7th times 5w to the 7th. Anyway, you look at it, 25w to the 14th.
I wanted my first one.
There's even another way to do it, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Hasta la vista, vaya con Dios, Tulu, ta-ta. Arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao.
Now when I'm
Adios,
supposed
amigos.
to
Hey, amigas. Garushus, Codifis, cheerio, ta-ta. See you later. Enjoy.